talking with him through the pendulum and everything. And it was like random question. I was like, hey, are deities a thing? And my past on loved ones were like, yep, absolutely. You have one. And I was like, what? Hi? Who? And they're like, yep, you have one. And then that's when Hades kind of came in and was like, hello. And I was like, oh, hello? And then I actually, like, honestly, internally, I was a little bit was freaked out because it's like I wasn't anticipating to meet a deity. I wasn't anticipating to have, of all deities, Hades come up and introduce himself to
Yeah.
me. Yeah. At first, I was like, hello? Who? Are we sure this is Hades?
Riley is a practicing witch who works with spirits and practices divination. Her experience with the metaphysical greatly outmatches my experience with the metaphysical. I'm just a ghost hunter. But I have a significant interest in learning about witchcraft, divination, clairsentience, and various methods of spirit communication. So I sat down with Riley to discuss these topics, and she even gave me my very first tarot reading through the World Wide Web. What evidence will the truth searchers find this time? Welcome everyone to the Searchercast with Gabe Mathews. I'm here with Riley. Yeah, she came on a Greenville Ghost Tour recently, and we got to talking, and I invited her on. Riley, actually, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us why you're here?
There. So yeah, my name is Riley. I did go on the Greenville Ghost Tour with Gabe here. We did do a nice little tour of the town, talked a little bit about history and paranormal experiences in certain places. One of those places that we ended up visiting was the Springwood Cemetery. And we did a little nice spirit session there. It's pretty good, pretty interactive with the spirits that were there. I personally am a practicing witch, and I do work with like spirits and divination and all that. So the next day after our tour, I decided to go back to the Springwood Cemetery and do my own little session. And I had like a little bit more interaction with the spirits there. I also was using more of my own personal tools, like my tarot cards and my pendulum. And that's typically how I communicate mostly with spirits.
Awesome. I actually thought you went back that night, but you went back the next day. So
Yes.
that's cool. So did you go during the daytime or did you go at nighttime?
I went at during the daytime, about midday roughly, actually.
Okay. Do you have a sense of spirits being more active during daytime, nighttime, or any certain instance?
I have found that spirits, depending on like where and location wise, they can be active more during the day compared to night. Because what I have found is spirits do still try to like treat the world around them as if it is their normal day-to-day life, where like you get up in the morning, you go out and do your daily day-to-day things, and then at night you are getting ready to go to bed. Like you might have one or two people that's like a straggler night owl, like myself. But most of the times I have found that there are more activity like midday, afternoon, early evening.
Okay. See, I've heard people say, nighttime, 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 and I've also got a lot of good evidence during daytime. I don't necessarily know if I found a pattern of one being more than the other or whatnot. And like you said, I think it does vary. So yeah, I actually found it interesting because you got a lot of activity in the Springwood Cemetery, which for those who are listening who don't know Greenville, Greenville, South Carolina has Springwood Cemetery, which is the oldest municipal burial ground in the state of South Carolina. It has over what 7,500 marked graves and over 2,500 unmarked graves, so over 10,000 bodies buried just off of Main Street, Greenville. Springwood Cemetery is my favorite place in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm always jonesing to visit the cemetery, and I enjoy going to the Springwood Cemetery, and every time I feel an aura. You're not from Greenville, right? Or
Correct.
yeah.
Yep, not from Greenville. I'm originally from Maine.
So give us an outsider's view on the Springwood Cemetery.
It's it's overwhelmingly big. Like it's a large plot of land that I have like the closest that I can say like cemetery wise, size wise that I've seen is the old like historic one up in Portland, Maine here. But even comparing that, I would say Springwood is a lot bigger. I'd say probably like 2 or 3 times bigger than
Hmm.
Portland, to be honest.
Yeah, and I used to have the square footage memorized, but I forgot that number, and it's unfortunate. I need to rememorize the square footage of the Springwood Cemetery. It actually used to be bigger, and like many cemeteries in the past, they make it smaller to build roads or whatever. Do you remember your communication from that specific day with
I
the
actually still
spirits?
have all the notes from it because
Okay.
I like write down every single encounter that I have, be either with my personal like celestial beings or with just going to visit like a cemetery and visiting those people. So like I have all their notes still. So I ended up speaking with 7 people when I went on this particular session. 2 of them we actually met in the tour. One of them was Joshua and the other one was Paul that we ended up like meeting on the tour with that session.
Yes, and for those listening, we did a spirit box session on the tour, and we had communication with a Joshua and a Paul, and then later on the next day, you communicate with them as an additional 5 other spirits.
Correct. Yep. So I spoke with a lady named Annie, a lady named Amy, a lady named Savannah, a gentleman named John, and a gentleman named Nicholas as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we got a John, a Paul, no George or Ringo, but we do have. You didn't get any last names, and there's some language difficulties. Do you think that some of
Yeah.
them were not English speakers?
It's not that I don't think any of them were not English speakers. It's more of like when it comes to last names, because there is such a plethora of last names with a different variety of like where they're from and everything like that. I barely speak like yes, English is my first language, but I barely can speak bits and pieces of other languages, but not enough to pick out someone's name. So that's where my like drawback kind of is. I can't pick out names because I don't know every single name of any concept of any like other language really.
Yeah. Um, so I guess some of the last names were foreign sounding.
Yeah.
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 And you didn't quite write them down because you didn't quite get them. So you didn't
Right.
get any last names at all. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we don't know who these people are, but that doesn't really matter. You were able to, communicate with, a spirit.
So
Cool.
I was able to get the death years of 2 of them. Paul passed in 1955 and John passed away in 1946. But those were like the only 2 that I was able to get like a definite death year.
Yeah.
Wasn't able to get a birth year or anything like that.
Were you able to communicate if they were buried in the Springwood Cemetery or not? Do you know?
Yes.
They were.
Yep.
So we
So
could probably pull up a database and see those years and the names and kind of try to see if we can figure out who this is. But there's also 2,500 unmarked graves, so it's possibly an unknown person as well.
yeah.
But we could look up the database and maybe I'll do that later. I don't think we want to do that while we're on a podcast. Me sitting
Might
here.
take a little bit long there.
Yeah. But that is interesting. And which one was 1955?
1955 was Paul.
Paul, and they died in 1955. And then
Yep.
and 1946 was what?
Was John.
John. Okay.
Paul specifically passed away of an automobile accident.
So our 2 Beatles died, around the time before the 60s. So like they didn't get to see the Beatles play or get to their peak, no Sergeant Pepper
Yeah.
for our Beatles. So disappointing. I think they would like to have experienced Beatlemania for sure. For people listening, what do you consider the best way to communicate with spirits? Like how do you because I always do different methods. I've had some methods work better than others, but I don't necessarily like I'll go out of spirit box and get nothing sometimes. And then
Yeah.
sometimes you go out and it's very active. I don't know if you have any tips or what you've kind of run across, because you actually have some what medium abilities, which I don't really have. So maybe you can speak to that, or how you came up with the abilities, and what leads you to find spirits.
Yeah, so typically the main way that I will communicate with spirits, I'll let them know, like, hey, hi, my name is Riley. I am just passing through, interested to talk with anyone that would like to talk. I kind of give it, like, I visually talk, not visually, audibly talk with them. Yes, it sounds a little crazy because it sounds like I'm talking with open air, but I also use my pendulum to ask yes, no, this or that questions. Like, I don't narrow it down to just yes or no. If I were to ask a this or that question, I explain, like, hey, if you want this answer, please swing the pendulum XYZ way, and then vice versa. In addition to my pendulum, I'll use my tarot cards. Typically, the way that I use my tarot cards is whichever way the card falls in the direction that it is. Typically, what I use is the first thing that pops in my head with the card. So, say, for example, I pull a card and it talks about success, career, wealth, accomplishing goals. I will look at the card, see what that card is associated with that, and then whatever usually pops in my head first is how I figure that's how spirit is communicating with me. So that typically ties into the clairsentience, which is where I know that that's what spirits are telling me. Like, they're telling me with the card and through thought process that they're putting into my head is the best way I can describe it. So like that way I know, like, okay, Paul did XYZ for his lifetime. That was not my thought process because obviously I don't know Paul, but Paul is telling me this through my thoughts that this is what he did in his life.
Okay. And when was the first time that you realized you had clairsentience? Or
So that's actually a funny story. So I figured that out because I was actually in the middle of texting one of my best friends regarding a wedding dress because we both worked in a bridal shop at the time. And we were both talking about this particular dress that I sent her an image of. In the way that this particular dress had a high slit in the dress of the skirt. And typically when I describe a dress that has a high slit, I say that that's elegant, it's modern, it's sexy. The 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 way that I realized that this thought process was not me and it was one of my deities was, and this is a very like risque kind of joke here, but the thought that immediately came into my head that I knew wasn't mine was someone saying like easy access. I'm just like, excuse you, that's so like I don't say like risque jokes like that. So
yeah.
the fact that it popped in my head, it was like, hello, who are you? That's not me. So that's how I started realizing, oh, my people, spirits, other people around me, like spirits and energy and stuff like that, they can communicate with me by sending their like words as a thought to me. So that's how I learned that I had that like their sentience kind of thing.
Okay, so they kind of popped into your head. And do you get some of them like reoccur, or is it different ones all the time, or a mixture of the two?
It's a mixture of the two. So like there are of my deities, I can tell like who is popping in with their thoughts. But then if I go to like say for example Springwood Cemetery, I'll get thoughts that pop in my head, and I know it's not my people because my people are taking like, hey, we know you're doing this. We're taking a step back. This is other people around you that are coming in to communicate with you. So that's how I know like, oh, this is a new person that's coming in and talking with me compared to, oh, this is John Doe that I've been working with for years.
Okay. And you say your deities, like what makes them yours? Like ownership of a deity. Um, and then a deity has like powers or is almost godlike, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
can maybe elaborate on what that means?
Yeah. So when I say my deities, I'm talking like the people that I specifically work with. Like I don't own them, obviously,
Okay.
but like I work exclusively with these people. So like for example, my patron god that I work with is Hades. So
Okay.
Hades is one of my deities. I work with him along with a few other Greek gods and goddesses, a couple of Egyptian, a couple of Norse, um, one Celtic, and a couple of actually Christian divination deities as well.
Okay. So, so if a deity basically is around, they probably seek out people who have this ability, clairsentience.
Yeah.
So I guess it's if you had the ability, they would seek you out, or do you seek them out, or is it kind of a random
Kind of
chance
both.
kind of thing?
Kind of both. So the way that I learned that Hades was one of my people was I actually have been communicating with passed on loved ones like long prior to even realizing that like the deities were actually still around kind of thing. So I would use my pendulum to communicate with my passed on like grandfather. And excuse me, one night I was working with him and talking with him through the pendulum and everything. And I was like random question. I was like, "Hey, are deities a thing?" And my past on loved ones were like, "Yep, absolutely, you have one." And I was like, "What? Hi, who?" And they're like, "Yep, you have one." And then that's when Hades kind of came in and was like, "Hello," and I was like, "Oh, hello." And then I actually, like, honestly, internally, I was a little bit was freaked out because it's like I wasn't anticipating to meet a deity. I wasn't anticipating to have, of all deities, Hades come up and introduce himself to
Yeah.
me. And at first I was like, hello? Who? Are we sure this is Hades? And every single time that I asked, like, hey, are we sure? My passed on ancestors were like, or passed on loved ones were like, yep, absolutely. Hades is what is your patron god. Yes, we are not lying to you. Like, so that's what started that whole ball rolling there. That's when like a couple of other people start coming in, and they've come in over the years. Like this is over, I'd say like a 2 year time frame that I've grown this group of deities that I work with. So it's not everyone coming in all at once because that would be very overwhelming for anyone. But it has grown over the years that I've like established relations with other gods and deities have come to me and started developing working with them kind of thing.
Okay. Now, do you guys all interact together? Is it like a team, or is
Yeah,
it kind of
sometimes, yeah.
individual? Okay. So you're like
So yeah, so
assembling like an all-star cast or some sorts, I
yeah,
guess.
actually, I kind of refer to it more of a council. Like I have Hades and I have Hera and I have Ares. I have Anubis from Egyptian mythology, like kind of all as like council is the best way I can say it. Like they all are aware of each other. They know that they all work with me. They all communicate with each other. So it's kind of like you have a behind the scenes support group that nobody else can see, and technically you wouldn't be able to see if you have clairvoyance. But if you do have the sight gift, then absolutely you can definitely see them. I unfortunately do not have that gift.
Yeah. It I mean, but you wouldn't be able to like do a heist because they're not physically here to be able to
No,
like perform tasks.
no.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know what they look like? Do they describe that, or do you have a visual in your head of what they look like? Do you know what Hades looks like, or not? I guess.
Yes. So
Yeah. Okay.
Hades has a very long, like well-maintained beard. Think like very much it's kind of stereotypical, which is awful, but it is accurate. Black, very long beard. Um, well-groomed short hair though, like not crazy like what you'd see with the Greek sculpture. It doesn't have long curly hair or anything like that. It's very well maintained, short cropped hair. Um, the facial structure of the Greek gods is very well actually accurate to what he still kind of looks like. That's still very much like what he looks like face wise too. Um, that is for him. I do have the sense of like I have a sense of what my other people look like. Like, for example, I will also work with Aphrodite. Definitely has long blonde hair. Like that is the energy that she absolutely comes with. Hera has long, sandy blonde hair, but it's always up and an updo. Like that's something that she always presents to me as. With her specifically, she has an updo hair.
Okay.
That's
And Hades. Does Hades have Cerberus?
Servius.
Cerberus, the
He does
three-headed dog,
not.
right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't present Servius around me. Like like I know that Servius is one of Hades' like fellow people within the underworld, but Servius has never been approached to me. So I don't know what Servius would look like.
Right. And so he is the king of the underworld, right?
Yeah.
So have you discussed the underworld and the inner workings, or
So yes and no. So I've asked Hades how, like, what happens after we die. He's like, reincarnation is a thing, and you have been reincarnated several times, might I add. And I'm like, okay, cool. Is hell a thing? He's like, absolutely. It's just not my domain. I'm like, okay, cool. Who do I ask about that? And he's like, Lucifer. You ask Lucifer that. And I'm like, okay. So Lucifer is one of my other people that I do work with.
so you have talked with Lucifer?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I've
And
also
are
also
eh,
talked with Satan too. Those are two separate
okay.
beings.
And you're on good terms with Lucifer and Satan?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Is that a good thing to be on good terms with Lucifer and Satan?
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
okay.
they don't have the agenda of going out and causing trouble for people. They're more like, I have things to do, I have things to run, I have literally hell to run. They're not, their whole agenda is not how much can I cause trouble for people. Like that's
Yeah.
not what their agenda is at all.
Yeah, it sounds like they're busy.
Oh
Like
yeah.
there's a lot of people entering that. So like do they describe what hell is like, or
Yes. So the way that Lucifer explained how hell works to me, he said hell isn't a fiery like pit that everyone thinks it is. Hell is more of like how you perceive your personal hell to be. So, for example, if being sexually assaulted is a huge thing for you, like that's a huge torture issue for you, then that's probably what's going to be in your own personal hell, unfortunately. If alcohol abuse was a huge thing, that was a huge issue to do. That unfortunately is going to probably be an aspect that happens in hell. So it's kind of more of what you personally create your own hell to be.
okay. Like that thing on Infinite Loop, is that um like it's just that thing over and over and over again for eternity, or
I didn't ask specifically that because
okay.
once like Lucifer explained that it's more of like what you personally create your own hell to be, I was like, oh, we're not gonna go there because that's a lot of trauma that I'm already picturing from my own personal hell. So I didn't like once like he established that that's what it is, I kind of ended the conversation there because I didn't
Yeah.
want to dive deeper into it.
Yeah. Well, you're certainly scaring me. So
Yeah.
um yeah. Okay. Well, cool. So I also want to talk about your pendulum.
Yep.
So I don't own a pendulum. I think I might buy one after actually just having this conversation now. Um, is there a brand, or is there like, do I just go on Amazon and buy one, or do I need to go I guess where should I buy my pendulum, and how do I use it the best method?
Yeah, so there's no particular brand. You don't need any particular brand really to do it. I actually got my two pendulums at two very different places. But typically any metaphysical shop that you go into, they're typically it's gonna be the same place that sells crystals and
Okay.
like tarot decks and stuff like that. That will should also have pendulums there. For example, the one that I have actually right here is actually not even technically a pendulum. It is my crystals that I was wearing on the tour itself. So I have these two crystals in here, and I use it sometimes as a pendulum as well.
And
So
is
it's
that a
definitely
is that black tourmaline crystal, or what?
there is a black tourmaline in here,
Okay.
and there's also a dragon's blood crystal in here on the backside too.
Okay.
Um, so
And I have
you don't
crystals of both of those, so that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. So like you can the best way to use them is just to have either like a crystal in like one of those little like metal cage balls that you just saw on like a chain. But as long as it's a crystal of some sort hanging from a metal cord is what I would best advise. Um, once you get it, they say that you're supposed to like cleanse it so it's clear of any energy that may come in transient and getting it to you. I personally have never done that, but then again, I've never had any bad luck by not doing that. It is good practice to cleanse it before you use it. And by cleansing it, you would just sit there and like focus on the crystal, kind of meditate with it, think of what intentions you want to use the crystal for, whether you want to get to know spirits more, whether you want to ask questions, be more insightful. That would be how you would set your intentions with the crystal.
Okay.
And
And
then
I usually cleanse with a smudging ritual. Would that be
that
okay as
works.
well? All right.
Yeah, absolutely, that would work.
Okay.
That's actually a really good one because that's what I used mainly to cleanse my crystals and anything that I do before I do any kind of rituals or spells or anything.
Yeah.
Um, Once your pendulum is clean and smudged as you wish, you what I would recommend is to sit with it, and if you can think of your personal like easiest way to do is get ask for a passed on loved one, because a passed on loved one is going to come to you with love, good intention, protection for you, support for you. Like they're not going to come in thinking, "Oh, I want to cause this person trouble." Like that's not their intentions. And just sit and have like a conversation with them. You don't have to really ask them anything just yet. If if you do it right, the pendulum will actually respond to what the person is trying to send you just by acknowledging that. So, like for example, I have like had conversations with Lucifer where I'm just talking, just pouring out my thoughts to him, and the pendulum will start swinging either like yes, he fully agrees with me, or no. And then if it's a no, typically I will pull a tarot deck and ask him to explain. But the pendulum should respond based on how like what you say to your past on loved one. The key part though is you have to be still with it. Like you can't be shaking, moving around yourself because that's going to cause the pendulum to swing itself, of course.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm gonna go buy one. I might head down to the Sacred Chakra, which is on Main Street, and see if they have one there. If not, there's Arcane Remedies in Greenville as well. So always support your local metaphysical supply stores wherever you may be. Let's go back to your Springwood Cemetery. They brought messages. Do we want to talk about some of the messages?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with the one that had like the shortest message ball. I'll start with Amy because Amy pulled my card that I had for the specific session that I had there. And in this specific session that I did, I explained to these spirits like,
Yeah.
hey,
And I'm seeing a Six of Pentacles. And what is a pentacle?
Pentacles. The it's funny because that card, like the Six of Pentacles is technically a card that would have meaning. For Amy specifically, I actually didn't get the message through the Six of Pentacles. If you look at the card, it has the name Amy on it, and that's actually why she pulled that card.
Mm-hmm.
So with Amy, what I got from her is she literally just came and was like, "Hey, I just want people to know I'm here. This is my name. My name is Amy, as it shows on this card. That's all I have." And I was like, "Okay, nice to meet you. Thank you for coming forward."
She kind of photobombed your session.
Basically, yeah. She just
Okay.
wanted to be like, "Hey, I exist. I am here. That's all I have." And I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
welcome to the group."
Okay. And penta is like 5, right? Or pentagram?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Sorry, I was thinking in as like a Spanish word for pesos, and I don't know why I went there, but that's where I went. But yes, pentagram would be 5. Pentacles is obviously shows as a pentagram on those. Typically, when it comes to pentacles in a tarot deck, it's actually more geared towards like material things, like wealth, material objects, and like stuff like that. That's usually where that one comes in.
Okay.
Okay.
So I've never really done much with tarot decks. How would I get started if I just buy one? Where do I go from there, I guess?
So the way that I picked my first tarot deck was I went into metaphysical shop, same place that I actually went to get my pendulum, and just what I did was saw the decks, and I just kind of opened myself up to my people. I was like, "Hey, someone guide me to the deck that you think is the best one for me." And once you have that deck, what I typically do is I just like shuffle through the cards, look at them, see what they look like. Um, Go through the tarot deck book that usually comes with the tarot deck. I strongly advise having those because it's good help to guide you there. Um, but like I just familiarize my deck with the deck, looking at it, reading through what the cards mean, what they look like the visuals of them. And then just like with the pendulum, I recommend asking for a loved one to come through and just like have them shuffle through, pick the card that they want. The way that I usually ask.
A deceased loved one. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Well, actually, can be deceased loved one. I have spoken to passed on loved ones that I never actually met in this life. Like, for example, I spoke with my grandfather's father, and he passed away when my grandfather was 16. So I have spoke with passed on ancestors that I never met. So that is possible too.
So if reincarnation is a thing, and so the people who die get reincarnated, how would you be able to speak to past spirits if they're reincarnated?
So my theory that I have so far, based on what I've experienced and everything, is say, for example, when I'll just use my grandfather, for example. When my grandfather passed away, the youngest person that knew him when he was alive was my cousin. So my theory is that the people that pass on stay around to help the youngest surviving person that was there and knew them and loved them when they were alive until that person is ready to pass on their own. Now, for example, going with my grandfather, if God forbid my cousin were to pass away before her time, the next person in line would have been my other cousin on that same side of the family. She would have been the next youngest person that knew my grandfather when he passed away. So he would still stick around for all of us, even though the youngest person that he knew when he was alive passed away before her time.
So you're saying we can only speak to a couple generations, like 2 or 3 generations. Like we're not talking to people from like 10 generations ago,
No,
unless they're a deity.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And deities can speak to multiple people at the same time, kind of thing. Like
Yep.
all what's it, omnipotent? Is that the word?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Omnipotent, omnipotent, whatever that's pronounced.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. All right. Anyways, going back to the Springwood session, because I rudely interrupted that. So um, Amy strictly pulled cards, so someone would know her name and know that she is around. Yeah. So we talked about that. She photobombed the session. Nicholas, message for Gabe, which is me. 4 of Wands upright. And that's a card thing. 4 of Wands.
Yes.
Okay.
So the message I got with that, it was regarding of like community, home, celebration. And when I got that card, looking it over, the message that popped in for me was there's gonna be things like there's exciting things that are going on in your personal life that are happening that you should be celebrating. I didn't dive deep into that because it's like I had just met Gabe last night. I'm not gonna dive deep into his life. I don't know what's going on with his life, but I figured at least tell you like this is the message that Nicholas wants to tell you. Like whatever personal exciting things are happening in your life, celebrate them, acknowledge them, make sure to keep like remember them, like take part and get enjoying with them.
Okay. So I need to celebrate my good things.
Yeah,
That's what he's trying to tell me. Okay.
exactly.
Well, thank you, Nicholas. 4 of Wands. So is Wands and Pentacles, are these like suits, like a deck of cards, spades, hearts,
Exactly.
diamonds? So how many suits are in a tarot deck, and does it
There are
change?
4
There's 4. Okay. Pentacles, Wands.
cups. Um, um. Oh gosh, now you make me draw a blank here.
I'm sure you could just Google it real quick.
Swords.
Swords. Okay.
Swords is the last one. Yep.
Okay. And how many cards are in a tarot deck?
There are, I believe, this. I
It
believe
doesn't
it's
change.
32.
Okay. Is it all standard, or is there different?
Pretty standard,
Okay.
yeah.
So
Because
pretty.
when it comes to your suits, you think of it, you have like the standard ace to your king card as a standard to the deck, and then you have your major arcane. I believe there's 12 of them. So you have your typical standard deck, and then the major arcane on top of that, giving you the 32 counts.
Okay. So could you play card games with this? Like, could I play poker with a tarot deck or no?
I mean, sure, you probably could. Would I
Okay.
recommend it? Probably not, but you could.
Well, I just wonder what the odds would be if they, because like you have less cards, so you'd probably get flushes more often.
Probably.
And if there's 32, so that'd be 8 apiece. So you get more straight flushes as well.
Probably. You're also asking somebody who's never played poker, so I don't really know how poker works.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's four suits as well in a
Mhm.
standard, spades, heart, diamonds, clubs, and but you have kings and queens and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. So I'm definitely gonna buy a pendulum and a tarot deck, and play around. So when I buy my tarot deck, and how do you start talking about picking out your first tarot deck? How do I pick mine out? Do I go to Amazon and type in tarot deck and just buy the first one I see that's like $6, or do
I would
I go to
not
the
recommend
metaphysical?
that. I would recommend going to your metaphysical
Yes.
shop so that you connect with your people and you feel their energy.
Yeah.
Because, like, yes, you can go to Amazon, you can shop and get the cheapest deck that you find, but like that's not giving you the opportunity to even begin channeling your people, your past on loved ones, any deities that want to come to work with you. That's not giving you the opportunity to open yourself up to connect with them. Um, that's why I strongly would recommend if you are going to go shop for a tarot deck, you go to a metaphysical shop, and look at the tarot decks, feel the energy, open yourself up to your people, and try to communicate with them and feel what they like guide you to.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I want to support my local metaphysical supply stores, so I will do that. Um, I guess I've never really felt that I've had, um, like I've never been able to communicate with a spirit or have uh that. I guess I felt energy,
Mhm.
or emotions, kind of like, um and there's been emotions that I can't really describe. I feel happy, I feel angry, and then I feel, weird, or you feel a vibe, I guess.
Yeah,
um is that kind of um a start to, I guess, how do I take that next leap to, oh, I feel funky, and now I can talk to Hades, kind of thing?
absolutely. So I fully believe that that is absolutely a start to communicating with your spirits. For to give you an idea, before I even started really on like working in divination or anything, you have your people that give you signs without you realizing that they are their signs. Like for example, I was in a situation back in 2017 where I was just really not where I should have been and was really not in the best like safe place to be. And I had take like I kissed a guy and I ended up tasting pomegranates. Now, I asked him, "Have you had any pomegranate or anything that tastes like pomegranate?" He said no. Like he hadn't consumed anything like since him and I started like hanging out, whatever. I didn't know till years later that that was Hades giving me a signal like, "Hey, you need to GTFO because this is not safe for you to be here. You should not be here. You need to get out because it's not safe for you." I didn't know that that was Hades giving me a sign till again years later. So there are always going to be your people, whether you know them or not, or you if you know they're around or if you don't know they're around, that are giving you signs before you even realize it.
Cool.
So it's just a matter of like I guess just talking with them. Like that's the best way I can describe it is I just started talking to the open air because your past on loved ones and your deities can hear you all the time, regardless if you think that they're hearing you or not. They're always looking out for you.
And how did you finally find out that it was Hades, and why pomegranate?
Um, why did I figure out it was Hades?
Or,
Because
like, how'd you find out? Yeah.
how did I figure out it was Hades was because after that session where I asked my past on loved ones, like, hey, are we sure Hades? They were like, yep, absolutely. So getting to know like having starting to have conversations acknowledging like hey I'm having a conversation with the underworld god Hades himself like and I just point blank asked him one time I was like how do you communicate with me like without actually telling me that you're communicating with me he's like I give you signs like pomegranates and I was like what and he's like yeah that day me pomegranates and I was like oh, okay. And the reason why pomegranates, because if you know the story of Hades and Persephone, the pomegranate is the key like fruit that is like that Hades serves to Persephone. It's like one of his signals is the pomegranate seeds. Um, just that is one of his signs.
Cool. I didn't know that. I don't think I'll ever be able to eat a pomegranate again without thinking about Hades. So that's awesome. Okay, sorry, let's go back to the Springwood session. Okay. So we talked to Nick gave me a message to celebrate all my good stuff in my life. Which I guess Ghost Tour, it's going very well for me right now.
There you go.
Yeah, we're it's Halloween season. People are coming on lots of ghost tours, so I will celebrate that. I'll have to find a way to celebrate. I'm sure there's a good way to celebrate, and I'll put that as a task to figure out at a later time. I did not ask to elaborate on this because this was your personal business and I did not feel like it was my place to ask. That's Nicholas. About what's
Yeah,
going
about
on in my
Nicholas
life.
giving
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's nice of Nick. But we were there and we were on a ghost tour, so I'm sure he could put the two and two together.
Yeah.
Message for General. 5 of Cups, upright, grief, loss, self-pity. Joshua says he is not laid to rest with his wife. Claims she is buried in another cemetery. Being reunited with her would put him to rest. Okay. But we don't know when he died or who his name is or anything or who his wife is or
No, unfortunately not. I wasn't able to get that information.
yeah, so we probably won't be able to help Joshua. That's
Oh yeah.
unfortunate. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. I think
I knew going into that message, I was like, oh, that's a high risk, but oh gosh, I wish I could help with that, but
that's one of the saddest things when you are talking to a spirit and they're kind of telling you what they need to move on, and then you just don't get the information and they're going to be a trapped soul probably forever, because when's the next time that someone with medium abilities is going to come and talk to them and then be able to tell them the info?
yeah.
So I don't that's okay. All right, so anyways, we have Paul passed in 1955 automobile accident. We talked about this already, caused by human error. Okay, I don't think we talked about this human error that he was responsible for. He feels ashamed and guilty, and this was the closest he can explain it by pulling the Fool card. I get the sense that he wasn't the only casualty in the accident, which is why he feels too guilty to move one. I get the sense he wasn't only casual accident, which is what he feels too guilty to move one. To move one what? Let's see.
Just in general to move on, because like
Oh, to
the
move
sense that I
on.
got, yeah, the sense I
Okay.
got with that full card when he pulled it was as if he was talking through me here. Like, oh my gosh, I caused this accident, I killed somebody. I never got the clear message on if it was somebody that was in the vehicle with him or if he struck another vehicle and killed that person there. But the sense I got was, oh my god, I killed someone, this is my fault, they shouldn't have died, on top of the fact that he ended up causing the accident that killed himself in it. So like he feels the guilt of not only killing himself, but also killing somebody else.
Yeah.
That's the sense that I got with that one.
Yeah, Paul's a mess.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought he was trying to move something, but it was a typo. It was one, it should be on. He's too guilty to move on. So
Yeah.
that makes a lot more sense. So he killed someone, he killed himself, and he just feels so guilty. And then Paul had a personal message for you, but I'm not including that here. Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about that?
I mean, yeah, we can. So Paul's message that he had kind of for me was the Nine of Swords in the upright position, which is associated with anxiety, hopelessness, trauma. I'm like at the time and kind of still currently, I'm going through a situation where I have a partner that's actually in South Carolina. And he's just going through a lot of stuff right now. And it's like I can't really help him, unfortunately, with that. And it's just like a lot of like anxiety and worried about him to like hopefully like things will work out between us and like he gets through all that he needs to get through, but like unfortunately I'm kind of like I had to sit and be patient, and that gives me a lot of anxiety because I'm not the type of person that likes to sit and be patient, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any tips for dealing with anxiety?
um, well, funny thing is the like closest that I can give when it comes to tips is I check in with my people all the time. I ask them like, hey, like words of advice, like anything that I can get for an update or anything like that. And like we're working on it. You are okay. Things are gonna be okay. Trust us. We are doing what we can to help with the situation. So like I have been in communication with my people, and actually this is what Paul kind of drives into. Um, his message was, I see that you feel hopelessness right now, and I know that you have anxiety about the things going on right now, but please understand that things will get better. Like I know there's a lot going on and you are worried, but I promise you from what I'm able to see, things will work out. So like
Okay,
that's what my people keep telling me, and that's what Paul's message kind of was too.
cool. Yeah, because I get anxiety too, and it's sometimes it's tough, and yeah, you just gotta stay positive, and yeah, I don't know, I deal with that a lot as well, so um, I can relate. Okay, just going back through, let's see, we talked to Joshua, we talked to Paul, we talked to John. We did talk to John, right?
John, we raised over. So
Okay.
John was another person that I was able to get the year that he passed. He passed in 1946, but his was from a boating accident.
Okay. Now,
Explicitly, John said this boating accident was caused by a female family member, specifically one of his cousins.
okay, yeah, and it says Gabe can help. John specifically asked for me to come do an investigation, speak with John, which is great because I like to fish and I like boating. So yeah, I wonder where this happened. John's message for Gabe. Ace of Pentacles, in upright position, meaning opportunities, prosperity, new ventures. There are more adventures coming to you. Be ready for them. John did not elaborate on how you can help, but he specifically asked for me. Again, this is frustrating. This is exactly like our buddy Paul, right?
Mhm.
So both of the Beatles um just not giving us the right information
Yeah.
to help them. Yeah.
My sense for the message that he had for you was more of like he actually kind of wanted to tell you more about the opportunities that are coming for you. So it
Okay.
wasn't really more of like, hey, please have Gabe come because I need help. More of just like, hey, I want to talk with Gabe more because I have other things to tell him.
Do you think it's possible that I can communicate with them again by going to Springwood or
Oh,
um
absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. Because I went to what was her name? That statue there
Oh,
in
Fanny Heldman.
thank you, her. I went to her like gravesite, and that's
Right.
where I had this whole conversation with all these people.
Which is where we did our spirit session.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and again we didn't communicate with Fanny that, and actually I don't know if I've ever actually communicated with Fanny specifically. We've tried a couple times. I've asked for Fanny, and it's possible I got responses, but they never like said, "Oh, hey, I'm Fanny Heldman," or
Mhm.
it could have been a spirit saying that. It's hard to know, but yeah, it seems like maybe that spot they're kind of lingering around. And you believe that all these spirits are buried at the Springwood Cemetery?
Yes.
Yeah, it would make sense. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I go there, I go there quite frequently, so I can try to talk to my beetle bros and maybe see if I can get more information. Well, yeah, I guess that finishes the Springwood session. Anything more you want to add about that?
Um, Not particularly that I can think of. I do know one person that actually in the Springwood Cemetery, one of the ladies named Savannah, she was also one of those kind of like an Amy situation where she just kind of wanted to pop in and be like, "Hi, I'm here. This is who I am." One thing that she really wanted to like let everyone kind of know as a general thing was she was very frequently like a traveler. Like she traveled within the US, outside the US. She traveled a lot, and that was such a huge thing that she really like drove home kind of to me. But she's like, I did all these things. I traveled the world. I explored, and she did end up telling me that she passed away in 1978. But it was such like a huge thing for her that it was known that she was a traveler.
Hmm, interesting. I do find it also interesting that the women didn't want to talk, but the men did.
I find
That
that very common, actually, that women female spirits and female energies aren't really the type to be really like talkative. However, on that flip side, though, I have found that that the female energies that I encounter most are the ones that are going to be more like giving you a sense of comfort, giving you a sense of safety, kind of like feelings. Where the male energies, as you just said, they're much more talkative, but they're also very much more of like, hey, I'm here, like please, like pay attention to me. Like they will be the ones that like grab you, the ones that give you like not necessarily negative energy, but like make you aware. Like those are definitely more male energies I have felt.
Okay. Now, do you ever bring any of the spirits back with you?
No,
No.
I tell. I'll actually yes and no. So what I do, whatever I'm leaving a place that I just done an investigation with, I will explicitly tell them like if you have negative intentions, you want to cause harm, you want to cause sickness, you want to cause any negative energy, bad thing, I tell them you have to stay here. You are not allowed to follow me home. You cannot come with me. If it is like positive, good intentions, I tell them if you are a positive and good intention person and you would wish to come, you are more than welcome to come. If you have messages for me after, I am open to hearing them. But like I make it crystal clear to any energy that is around me. If you are this type, if you're positive, great, you can come with me. If you are negative, you have to stay here. You are not allowed to follow me home. And that's worked out quite well for me, thankfully.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. But some of them could lie too, right?
Yes, I mean, yes. Thankfully, that's also why I have like my deities around too. Like I constantly have like Hades will check in like quite frequently and be like, "Hey, how you doing, kid? Cool, you doing good? Okay, bye." And then Lucifer is also one of those people that will pop in and be like, "Hey, you doing okay? Cool, great, peace out." So like I have a multiple deities that will pop in and make sure like everything's okay. So like could a spirit lie? Sure. Do I think that they'll be able to get to me if they did lie and try to like scare me? No.
Yeah. So ask for consent.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. All right. And is there any association with the tarot cards and like the tarot roots, tarot dessert stuff?
Could elaborate a little bit more on that?
I think I've eaten food that's tarot, right?
I've never heard of a tarot edible thing.
Okay. Well, we'll skip over that. I think there's tarot desserts, right? And soups.
Interesting. I've never heard of them.
Might be tarot tea, I believe.
Okay. Oh, are you talking like loose leaf tea readings?
Um, maybe.
Okay. I have heard of those. Ironically, actually the first time I was ever introduced to those was actually in the Harry Potter movies. But I personally have never done anything like that. I don't partake in that mainly because I don't know how to read it if I ever did do it. Do I think it's an interesting concept and a tool that can be used in any reading? Absolutely. I am not the type of person that's going to be like, no, you can't do that because I don't understand it. Like, I'm absolutely open to any kind of tool that a psychic medium or practicing witch can use. I've just never have personally used those loose leaf tea readings.
Cool. And you are a practicing witch, right?
Yes.
Okay. And how does one become a practicing witch?
So I didn't realize I was practicing witchcraft when I started because when you use the pendulum and when you use tarot cards, as I was doing, that is actually a form of divination that I was doing, not knowing that I was actually practicing witchcraft. So what made me realize that what I do is considered witchcraft is I was speaking with like Hades and all the other deities, and I was like someone mentioned to me like, oh yeah, in witchcraft you can do divination. And I was like, what's divination? They're like, when you speak and work with deities. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what I do. So that's when I really kind of realized that what I do is a form of witchcraft. So I stumbled upon it. What people can do is if you learn about it, like if you learn how to work with spirits, that is a form of divination. If you work with deities, that is obviously a form of divination. If you practice spells with herbs, that is a form of witchcraft. Like there are it's such a umbrella like avenue to go down when it comes to witchcraft. There's so many routes that you can take. I personally specialize when it comes to divination because I work specifically with passed on loved ones, local spirits, and then deities. Those are my that's my big channel when it comes to my witchcraft.
Okay. So it seems like if I get a pendulum and a tarot deck, I'm close to being a practicing witch.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, cool. I can add that to my resume or whatever.
I would definitely do a lot of like digging in and researching, learning about what you're looking into doing before just jumping in. Like you don't want to jump off the dock and then realize you're going to be diving into shallow water because you're not don't know what you're doing. But obviously, definitely recommend doing your research before just jumping in and doing something. And that's just with any like channel of witchcraft that you want to like look into. Like if you want to work with herbology and like doing those herb magic spells, definitely read up on your herbology before you jump in and start doing spells and stuff, because once you start casting spells and doing stuff like that, that's now playing with fire, and if you don't know what you're doing, you could cause a forest fire, metaphorically obviously, without realizing you are setting a forest on fire.
Good to know. So what was I going to say about that? Is there any books that you recommend? Or did you read any books on this, or any YouTube channels or people that I can follow, or
So I'm not a big YouTube person, so I don't know regarding like YouTube followers or like TikTok followers. I have done a wide. I definitely have a few books upstairs and for my books that I have read. One of them that I actually read was in regards of like working with communication with spirits. Um, Another one that I have actually is working with astrology, called modern astrology, because that is another avenue that I actually have. Um, and another one that I have is actually dictionary of demons, because again, I work with a wide variety of people, so I do have that as one of my books as well. Um, I have two separate books actually that discuss communication with spirits. So those are two varieties that I definitely work with and that I definitely read up on before jumping into this.
okay, cool. And I think we're kind of getting towards the end. I was gonna ask you if is it possible to do a tarot reading or abbreviated one on this?
Yeah, I can definitely pull like a card for you. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So the way that I usually do tarot readings is if we were doing it in person, I would ask you to shuffle the deck as well. Obviously, we're not because this is not a Zoom call.
Can we do it virtually?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
that
what I
you can put your cards up and I could maybe try to like I don't know, shuffle it or something.
what I'm gonna actually have you do is I'll have you focus on a particular passed on loved one, or if you have a deity in mind that you would like to start working with, mentally just talk with them. And while you're thinking that, if you want to ask like a question or two, think of those questions. Don't tell me the questions because I don't want to know what the questions are. But when you're ready, say something along the lines of like, okay, ready. And then I will, as you're thinking these questions through, I'll be shuffling, and then that's when I'll have the spirit pull the card for your answer. So does that sound good?
How many questions do I need?
Um, if you want to do up to three, that'd be great.
Okay.
If you want to do only one or
And
two, that works for me.
does it have to be someone that I've met when I was live or okay. All right. Okay, let me think about it for a second.
Okay.
And then I'll let you know when I'm ready. Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
go for it. So just start thinking the questions that you have, and then when you're ready for the answers, just let me know.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Okay. So your first card is this one, which is the Two of Wands in upright position. Typically, two of cards as regards of like decisions of different paths. Let me see. Okay, that's nice. Okay, so typically, like I was right there. So Two of Wands is regarding of like decisions, traveling, business opportunities, future planning, cooperations. So what that is giving to me, what I'm picking up like here from your people, whoever you are communicating with, you've got opportunities coming. You have business like actions that are going to be coming into place. They're going to be laying out for you. Like you have decisions that are coming.
Okay. Hmm.
I do want to let you know there were a couple messages that popped out for you too while you were asking your questions, but I will cover those after that. Was that the only question you had, or did you have like other ones along with it?
Well, you had me think of three questions, so I thought of three. Yep.
All right, okay. Okay, so it looks like both of them just popped out for the last two questions that you have. So for the second question, you have Page of Coins, which again, for this particular deck, Pentacles is coins in this one. So with Pentacles slash coins, that obviously is more geared towards like material wealth kind of thing. So for this we
Okay.
have so again, this is literally talking about opportunities. So for Page of Coins, it's talking about setting goals, loyalty, positivity, opportunities, manifestation. So going along with the Two of Wands and the Page of Coins here, this is
Mhm.
talking about like business opportunities, positive changes that are coming your ways. You're going to be having literally opportunities. Like there's opportunities here. There's I'm sorry, I'm laughing because the third one is the Magician in the reverse position. Magician, it talks about like we're giving you a helping hand, but it's not a freebie. Like so what your cards are telling you, what these questions are giving or the answers that are giving here is whoever you're speaking with, they're more than willing to help you get to whatever your goals are trying to be, your accomplishments, your opportunities, your business chances that you have. But it's saying don't let these opportunities just go by. Like you're gonna miss them if you don't focus and you're not paying attention to these. So whatever businesses opportunities that you have come, business is popping out a lot at me. Um, focus on them. Don't let things just slip through the cracks just because you don't have time, you're not putting in the effort, you're not focused. It's saying very much like you need to focus on this or else you're going to be losing these opportunities. Now, while you were thinking those questions, like I said, you got a couple of messages that popped out at me while you were getting them. The first one that popped out was the Ten of Wands in reverse. Now, I know that image looks a little scary. I promise you it's
Yeah, it
not actually
does.
that scary. Ten of Wands in reverse. So for Ten of Wands, whoever you were channeling through, they're giving you a message of yes, that's great that you have the job opportunities coming to you, that these opportunities are going to be arising soon, but be aware that if you keep pushing yourself though, and if you just keep constantly on the go, you're going to lead yourself to burnout. That is what 10 of Wands in reverse talks about. It's getting yourself to be burnt out. You're going to be overcommitted. You're going to be stretching yourself thin. You don't want to be doing that when it comes to business opportunities, because again, can lead to missed opportunities. So make sure you're aware of them. Don't lose sight of them though. Also, make sure to take care of yourself. Like, that's where this card is coming on. So that's whoever's talking to you is telling you, be aware of them, keep focused on them, don't stretch yourself thin, because you're gonna lose out on things. The next one that came through as a message was the Six of Cups. So,
yeah. Were those kids or adults?
Those are kids.
Okay.
This is actually, so this entire deck is all off of like across the globe.
There's a raven up there. Can you move it down? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this one is actually based, this entire deck is based off of like fairy tales, mythology across the globe. This particular one that's depicted here is actually the story of the Snow Queen, which is a Denmark fairy tale. So that's where this one talks about. And actually, it depicts kids because this one is talking about nostalgia, old friends, simple joys, sharing in childhood. So what this card is telling me, and from what your people are telling, or whoever you channel through is telling me, it's also bringing up, like, make sure you keep your old friends or your old, like, have your old support group tied in with you. Like, you don't want to be losing your support group because you're so focused on your business and your business opportunities. Like, have those, make sure to honor your friends, make sure to have your support group nearby, and just make sure you're sharing your times with them. The last message that I got is actually one of the major arcane cards, so that's nice. We like to see those cards. This one that is in is the Star.
Okay.
The Star.
And that's like a lamb?
Yep.
In arms?
Yep. So this is a Russian fairy tale that this one is based off of, the symmetry. So this one, the star in the upright position, which is what this one came in for you, is in regards of hope, serenity, inspiration, insight, and spirituality. So what that's giving me for a message there. See, this is gonna sound so stupid, but it's kind of self-explanatory, but it's kind of like, hey, don't lose sight. Keep your head up. You got this. Make sure that you're also keeping faith with what you're doing. Like, keep at it, because if you lose sight of that, you're not going to have this. Your opportunity is going to be gone out the window. So keep focusing on what you're doing, but make sure that you're also keeping your hope up with it. Spirituality got mentioned in there. I do think that you are heading on a great path because you are working with ghost tours. You're doing your ghost investigations. I do think that card's kind of like confirmation. Like, yep, you're doing right. Good job. Keep bringing on the spirit side. You got this. So that's the message that I got from that one.
Yeah. Well, thanks. All that seems to make sense. And you know, in what I'm doing, like, it all kind of, like, all those tips were like, seem to really relate, I guess. Like, they weren't like, oh, that one's far-fetched. It was like, oh, that applies to me 100% kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for doing that. This is actually my first you know, tarot reading on the internet.
Well, good. So, I'm glad I could do that for you.
Cool. Well, we're getting towards the end of the podcast. I usually like to end. What kind of music do you like?
Oh, like kind of alternative rock, I guess you could say.
Okay. Well, I always like to end, you know, by recommending, you know, an album that I listened to recently. So this week I'm going to recommend the new Horrendous album, Ontological Mysterium. It's a progressive metal, death metal, technical thrash metal, melodic death metal album, and probably my favorite song is Chrysopia the archaeology of dawn. Sophia is a term. It's a Greek term which refers to the artificial production of gold, most commonly by the alleged transmutation of base metals such as lead. So turning lead into gold, which is a form of alchemy, chrysopia, and that's a good 7-minute and 15-minute song. I like it. I recommend it. So yeah.
All right, cool. I'll have to look that up then.
Cool. Yeah, I try to, I'm in the music. I've been writing music. So I'm hoping to release some of that soon here. So that's something I'm passionate about. So yeah.
Perfect. That'd be interesting.
Cool. We'll be on the lookout for that. And then yeah, is there anything that you'd like to add to close out this podcast?
No, not that I can think of. I mean, I had a great time on the tour, so that was awesome, and I
Oh,
loved it.
yeah, you want to talk about the tour for a quick second? I meant to your experience on the Greenville Ghost Tours.
Yeah, I mean, I am a history, like haunted history fanatic, so I think that was a really, really good like detailed tour that you did, covering not only just like historical parts of it, but like also this kind of like sci-fi part of it, where like talking in regards of like UFO sightings. Like I think that was a nice little like sprinkle in to add in there. So I absolutely love that. I love that we covered a good walking distance in regards of Greenville as well. Like that's something that I really, really like about when it comes to walking tours. And that's usually like my fear too, is like yes, it's gonna be a walking tour, but it's gonna be like a short walking tour. But like you did a really, really good job when like covering all of Main Street and like other side parts of it as well too. So that was really, really good.
Well, I appreciate that. And you heard it from her here first, hear it from Riley. And again, thank you, Riley, for coming on this podcast and talking about your abilities. And we covered a lot of things from talking to spirits, talking about tarot, talking about metaphysical, talking about witchcraft, a little dab of music and ghost tours, and it was a fun time. So for everyone out there, remember, the truth is paranormal. Be a searcher. Thanks everyone for listening to the Searchercast with myself, Gabe Mathews. Be sure to like, subscribe, share with a friend, and leave a comment. And I'll catch you on the next investigation.